what they're going to do is it's kind of a speculative reimagining of race for the way mixed people are navigating it. And as I was telling Claudia, she is my mother's complexion. But in the American South, you know, the Americans had the one drop rule. And it reminds me of my grandmother, because, you know, if you live long enough, how many of you have had an older, they kind of know when the end is near, when they're about to pass on. My grandmother calls me back home to Mississippi. She's about 90 years old. She wants to see the grave of her husband, my grandfather, we buried back in the 80s. And my grandmother grew up just down the road from this American writer by the name of Richard Wright in Mississippi. So I go down, I say, Grandma, we're going to drive down to Natchez. Drive down to Natchez, we turn outside the community of Natchez where she grew up. And we go down this other little side road. And I pull up and I see a white man raking the yard. And my grandmother said, pull in here, boy. I said, Grandma, why are we stopping here where these white folks live? That dude is a white man, whatever. She said, hush, boy, he go for black. And I was like, so, because in the American South, you find out the legacy of these relationships of people you're unaware of. Because in your own imagination, you just think, I'm just black or whatever, this, that, and the other. But then you find the legacy of the people who live amongst us. Some had passed and chose to stay with their black family. And my mother, who's very, very fair, would often come back and tell what white people would talk about black unless she let them know. She'd say, hey, I'm African-American, where the people would turn very red and embarrassed because it's like she had sat amongst them and listened to what they had to say. And so that is one of the things in the American South. And I'm glad to hear our speakers are from Germany, because I had to tell a friend of mine who is an Afro-German that the Germans shouldn't beat themselves up so much because they got a lot of their bad ideas from the Americans. Because people know they were studying the Americans, how they treated black people, to learn how to treat their own black people or whatever. And so that legacy of mixed ancestry in Europe, and even why it was so fascinating about the legacy of leading up to World War II, the Weimar Republic, where the Germans were very upset about the presence of African soldiers marrying German women, became a big issue, and how some of those children survived that period. And up to this date, with the legacy of that and how it's dealt with, and the popular imagination in Germany and different parts of Europe is very interesting. We're looking at that at Carnegie Hall now with their revisiting the idea. This is like the 100th anniversary of the Weimar Republic in terms of its legacy, in terms of creativity and art and culture. And I'd like to hear from, Claudia is going first, to share and come to you in her own way.
Okay. Okay, I'm actually British. My mum's German. My dad's Jamaican. That's my heritage. I'm going to have to swap glasses now because I can't read with those ones. So this piece that I'm reading today, it's half of a story that I've written. And I'm going to read the first half, but I wanted to give it some context before. This piece is dedicated to a specific group of mixed heritage people who were born in the Weimar Republic. That's 100 years ago. I just wanted to just briefly describe the circumstances of their birth. So, as was said, after the First World War, Germany had lost and were required to pay extreme reparations, and this was called the Treaty of Versailles. And part of that treaty required French troops to occupy the Rhineland area of Germany. This went on for more than 10 years, and a percentage of those French soldiers were from the French colonies in Africa and Asia. And over time, some soldiers had relationships with the local German women. And as a result, it's estimated that around between 600 and 800 mixed heritage children were born. The right-wing party that was beginning to get a lot of power at that time believed the French purposely had sent these African troops in to pollute the German race. They saw it as an attack on the part of the French. And they called it the Schwarze Schande, which translates as the black shame. And these children were labeled the Rhineland bastards and became a focal point for fears and resentments. As you can imagine, the future for most of these children was often bleak. Once Hitler got into power in 1933, when they were around early teenage years, many of them were sterilised and many died in concentration camps. There are some extraordinary survival stories, but not a lot is written about these children. So I'm dedicating this story to these children, and the story is called The Flight of the Mischling in 6 movements. And the word Mischling is a pejorative German term for someone of mixed heritage. The Flight of the Mischling in 6 movements. 6th movement. Ansel lands on the ceiling with a gentle bump, limbs wide in surprise, a little queasy, blinking in this new view. The Persian rug which held her feet moments before is now so far away. The bed, scattered with silk cushions and velvet throws, is a painting in the gallery. Look how the pictures on the walls are head over heels. Look at the thick, untouched dust on the top of the wardrobe. And at the centre of it all is the lady of the premises, a momentary mother, although Ansel doesn't call her mother, and this mother doesn't call her Ansel. Ansel calls her what everyone calls her, Frau H., the name as strange as she is, and it demands attention as she does. She is tall and beautiful and formidable. But not from up here. From up here she is none of these things. From up here she looks small and frightened. They stare at each other. Time stops. No, it doesn't. Not for the clock ticking, the dog barking somewhere in the street outside, the car driving by, but it stops for Ansel as she looks about at the ordinary things and hears the ordinary noises. And in this no-time moment, she remembers and she understands everything there is to be understood about a bedroom that is upside down and the defiance of gravity. Then she puts a favourite record on the player and lies on the bed to watch. Ansel knows all the songs. She mimics the singers from the nightclubs that Frau Hart takes her to, copying the dramatic hand gestures and pouting expressions. It was just 3 months ago that, in the blink of an eye, every inch of Ansel's existence was transformed. Once she was always cold and her bed was hard and her stomach was always rumbling and she had to scrub and clean and pray every day for God's grace. But now she is warm and the bed's soft and she can eat all she wants and there's never any scrubbing to do, and God is never mentioned except as a curse in a sudden fit of rage that Ansel has learnt to recognise the signs of, and when it comes and the smile vanishes and the pale skin turns even paler, then it is time to get out of sight. But sometimes when Ansel sings, her heart swells and she forgets her vigilance. The record ends and Frau Hart laughs and claps while Amsey curtsies and twirls in happy circles, her blue skirt spinning around her like a cloudless day, and she declares, "When I grow up, I will sing at the beginning." Ansel immediately realises her mistake, too honest, too open. Frau Hart's mouth is a sharp line, ready to cut. Ansel looks over to the door, but Frau Hart is up from the bed and blocking her exit. "You ungrateful goddamn beast," she hisses. "You think you can live here like a queen and leave me whenever you please? What do you think would happen to you if you left here? I am all there is to protect you from a world that wishes you didn't exist." She picks up a vase from the mantelpiece. "You see this pretty vase? See, I put it here, it stays here. You be like this vase. You will only do what I want you to do. Or maybe you will fall down and break. Pretty things are easy to break." She dashes the vase to the floor. "Do I make myself clear?" Ansel stares at the broken pieces. Her heart is beating fast, but her mind is beating faster. She is thinking about all the ways that she is like a vase. Small, still, quiet. You put the Ansel vase down and she stays down, whether it is in a cold, damp orphanage or a plush Berlin apartment, whether it's a matter of scrubbing dishes in ice-cold water or sitting still in a fancy restaurant while every face turns to stare. It's the same. The transformation is a lie. And that was when she stopped being a vase and floated to the ceiling. Fourth movement. The night before, they are in the heart of Schöneberg district. This is where the most notorious nightclubs are located. Some venues are blatant, boastful, gushing music and light onto the street. Others prefer to tuck themselves away down dark steps and shadowy doorways, that inviting combination of the mysterious and the seedy. Children aren't allowed in such places, but Frau H. just slips a few marks to the doorman, and no more is said. Her black shimmy dress sparkles with sequins. She wears black collar around her eyes and bright red lipstick that matches her red nails. She loves the colour contrast, the black and red against her milky white skin. But her caramel-coloured Michelin adds the most delicious contrast of all. Tonight she has dressed the child in one of her exotic outfits. Gold waistcoat, silk baggy pants, and a large green turban. Frau H. aims to be the queen of wherever she goes. Always the best seat, the best table, the best view of the dance floor, the stage, and a large cushion close by on the floor where her Michelin sits. She simply adores American jazz but won't dance because she doesn't like to sweat. Friends join her, swap air kisses, pet her Michelin, share cocaine. Amsel has come to understand that there are two sets of people in this world. Day people and night people. In the day, men are men and women are women and black people are hardly at all. But at night, when the day people and their children are safely tucked up in their beds, the night people come out to play and all the rules are broken. She wonders what the nuns would make of it. She likes to imagine how they would shake and quiver at the sight of all this sin. Tonight, Frau H. has taken her to the Begin. It's not as large and lavish as some places, but Amsel soon realised its unique attraction. Everyone who works here, all the bar staff, all the band, are black. She recognises some faces from previous club nights. Her eyes can't help but hone in on another brown face whenever they find one, always far away and singular. But here, if she can for just a moment ignore the white clientele, she is surrounded. Her whole body is shaking as she sits on her cushion, transfixed by the man in the snow-white tuxedo playing the clarinet. He stands centre stage while the band plays gently around him. She has never heard such an instrument before. Its voice is a human-bird hybrid on the verge of words that she would understand if only. Tears roll down her cheeks. After several glasses of champagne, Frau H.'s attention is taken up with the delight of a more mature body. She flicks her hand and tells her Michelin to go and play. Amsel knows that Frau H. will not give her a second thought for quite a while. She wastes no time, whips the turban off her head, and quickly makes her way through the crowded tables to the bar. The waitresses are busy, back and forth with trays of drinks. Amsel waits and prays for a lull. Her heart skips when the waitress passes close by, winks and says, "Be right with you." When the waitress returns, she beckons Amsel to come behind the bar and into a little tuck-away room full of bottles. There are two more women there, chatting and smoking cigarettes. Their faces light up when they see Amsel. They ask her who she is and how she came to be here, and who is that strange woman she came with. Amsel looks around at their faces, hears their voices. She opens her mouth to answer, but no words come out. They don't seem to mind. They smile and cup her face in their hands and call her Schatzi. So I don't have time for movement 3, 2, and 1.